Welcome everyone to another session of the One Earth Live Global Visionary Speaker Series. I'm Xiuhtezcatl from Uplift, and today I'm really excited to present Aubrey Marcus. He is a New York Times bestselling author and social entrepreneur, and Aubrey is a true visionary who has devoted his life to the study of human potential. And his work truly reflects that we can all live in harmony and balance with body, mind, and spirit. So I'd like to welcome Aubrey Marcus. Thank you, Aubrey, for taking the time today to be with us.
Yeah, really happy to be here. These are very interesting times, and it's a lot of opportunity to reflect on what our potential is without all the constructs that have formerly existed, and really forge a new way for ourselves and for the collective. So happy to be on.
Thank you so much. I'd like to begin today our fireside chat, if you like, if you could just share a little bit of your journey. What brought you to this place of deep study into human potential?
Well, I think it's a combination of inspiration and desperation. You know, I think I've had a really strong and overactive mind that can be quite dominant in its position, where everything should be in balance with nothing, too far ahead of the others. And I think for most of my life, my mind was such an active force. It had a lot of potential and a lot of ability to, solve problems and also create problems. And I think a part of it was to solve some of those own issues that I had with my internal equanimity because of having such a dominant mind. And so trying to work my way into building up my spirit, building up my body so that everything was in alignment and accord. And part of it was just a calling, to use my own skills and everything that I was gifted with. I feel very blessed with all of the opportunities that I've had, and to bring that forward for humanity. It's been a combination of that, desperation to help myself get in right accord, and also the inspiration to help others do the same.
Amazing. It's like this we say like this, from human doings to human beings, this journey,
Indeed.
We're so busy with the doing. And which brings me to my next question for you. It's like, right now on the planet with the COVID-19 and the social isolation and all of this, we're having this great moment of pause, and beyond that we have, climate change and economic collapse happening. And I mean, it's so easy to focus on the breakdown that's happening in society right now. But what do you feel is breaking through this? Like you said, this desperation moment is with us. So what's breaking through for you? What are you seeing as a positive outlook?
Well, I think really we have to understand that all resistance is an opportunity for adaptation. That's how humans have evolved for millennia. And, I think this is an opportunity to look at this as like, okay, there's resistance in the world. There's the actual virus, of course. And then there's all of the regulations put in place to, protect us from this virus. And then there's all the ramifications of those regulations, including the social distancing and all the public policies. And then there's the economic challenges and all of that. And I think looking at that as just a external force of resistance that's bringing up some internal resistance, maybe some fears that we have, some things, and then figuring out how that can be happening for us instead of to us. And I think that's the first most important mental shift, is to say like, okay, let's assume that this COVID-19 is happening for us. Well, maybe it's happening for us economically because it's forcing us to change our business model and adapt the way that we're doing things. I mean, this whole One Earth Live, event is because of the resistance that was created from the denial of being able to actually gather in person. So digital platforms are thriving, and the way that people are connecting and what they're offering is pretty incredible. I have a lot of artist friends, and just seeing what they've been doing, both in the creation of music and also, kind of brand. And that's not just artists. I mean, restaurants are forced to change their business model. The takeout offerings and creating like at-home restaurant quality experiences. And there's so many innovations that are happening across the board that are beautiful. That I think really the key is just to say, like, instead of bemoaning the reality that is, which we can't change, let's say, all right, this is happening for me. What am I going to do about it? And I think that's the beautiful thing that we have. And I think it cuts across all different categories of what we're doing and what we're offering.
Yeah, amazing. Very true. It's been interesting to see in my world, which is sort of the more entertainment world, and how quickly, you know, people are responding, like responsibility, the ability to respond, you know, to what's happening has been amazing. And yeah, and I think it's created this sense of coming home a little bit, you know, because they're all home as well. So how's that working for you? What's been your great revelations during this time?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, part of my path is as a writer. So for a writer, home isolation is pretty much the norm. And I have another book manuscript that I'm working on. So in some regards, the timing of this is actually coinciding with a lot of what I was going to do anyway. But one thing that it's really made clear is kind of eliminated a lot of the superfluous social gatherings that can really suck up a lot of time and energy. And I've really kind of doubled down on forming and forging and strengthening the really important connections in my life. So making time to call the friends that I really care about, and call my family and talk to them and FaceTime, but being more selective with that instead of just kind of, it's Friday night, I'm going to go out with the crew, you know, which blends into 1,000 other memories that are quite pleasant, but nothing that's actually particularly accretive to my life. It's offered me a chance to be selective with what I'm doing, and also get to some of those things that you tend to push off, you know, different boxes or cleanses or different, you know, spiritual practices that are kind of on hold or kind of lightly touched. I've gotten a lot more, just a lot tighter on my routine, and seen a lot of growth from it. And that's been really beautiful. So also had a pretty spectacular COVID-19 love affair happen with a new partner that I'm engaged to. So it's been really interesting for me, and I have the deepest sympathy for people who are going through real hardship during this time. But for me personally, it's been only a blessing.
Well, that's great to hear. I think that's amazing that you found this amazing relationship in this period too. That's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Very interesting. Yeah. Thank you.
And tell us a bit more about peak potential. Like, how would you describe what's peak potential for a human?
You know, I think we have to remove the idea that potential is tied to any absolute external marker, right? Peak potential is very personal, and it's very individual, and it's very related to what you can do in a given day. So I think there's general practices that are going to optimize that, but I think we fall into the trap of saying, well, I'm obviously not at peak potential because look how fit LeBron James is, or look how fit, you know, the number one star of our own gym, or whatever. Like, we'll compare ourselves to somebody else or somebody on social media, and that's not it. It's about us. It's about what is the best that we can offer in any given moment, in any given day. And I think making that shift is really important, because anything else is just going to cause us to kind of just pull ourselves out of the race, so to speak, and just kind of hold back and not actually give our best because we feel like our best isn't enough. Well, the truth is that our best is always enough. It's our best, and it has to be enough. And so, you know, peak potential is just what is the most that you can offer in any given moment, and how do you prepare yourself to be able to offer the greatest gift that you have on any given day.
Great. I think we froze a little bit there, but I'm not too sure if you can hear me on this one, but yeah, wow, that's beautifully said. Thank you. So it's such an individual journey, because it's so easy to compare ourselves, you know, or constantly. I mean, we're sort of grown up with this sense of comparison, you know, am I as good enough as so-and-so, or, you know, so-and-so's better than me, you know, especially around the body, which is one of the biggest, you know, spaces that people carry their issues, all locked in our body. Yeah, what would you say is, because you talk about the body, mind, and spirit a lot, like how important is the spiritual aspect, or the maintenance of the spirit? How's that come into play?
Yeah, I think it's vital, and I think it's been confused by a lot of different terminology and a lot of different ways that people have kind of harnessed that idea of spirit and drove it into different directions. I think, you know, capital R religion has its own take on what the spirit is and its own set of rules and its own codification and a lot of different, systems. You say a word like soul or you say a word like God and nobody knows what you're talking about because there's a million different definitions and a million different rules that have been applied to those definitions. And so I think, spirit is something that we all have to get in touch with individually. It's a game of experience, not, listen to somebody else tell you about it. We have to understand what our spirit is. And to me, I like words like the witness or consciousness, more neutral words that we can understand. It's that born and undying aspect of ourselves that is just aware of our body, aware of our mind, but is, part of that current of life itself. And we find our spirit usually in the still moments, in the quiet moments. And that's why meditation is so valuable and sensory deprivation is so valuable and some of the plant medicine journeys and all of these moments that kind of collapse everything to the real stillness where we can get in touch with our spirit. It's like we find our spirit when the lake of our psyche and our body is quiet. It's hard when our body is really loud, if we're in pain or if we're exhausted or if our mind is troubled or concerned or thinking about something. It's very difficult to tap into the spirit, which is, found in the stillness and the quiet. And, so layering in all of those practices to make sure that the spirit is actually lifted up to a level where it's at the very least equal to those other elements is really important. And I think that's going to create a real balanced expression of an individual and is pretty vital.
Beautifully said. Wow. Thank you for that. That's great sharing. So, so I know you work a lot with, and you're an entrepreneur yourself and also CEO. So what would you say to all the sort of entrepreneurs and CEOs out there? Because that's when you really get stuck in the doing, when you're trying to build your own company. And what are some of the sort of the sort of essential gifts that you can share? Like what some of the pathways that people can really embody?
I think you have to have a vision of what you're trying to build. And that vision has to be reconciled with, kind of a deep love and a deep commitment to something that you really care about. I think I get too lost in a game of creating with, I think this idea of being a serial entrepreneur where you just spin out a bunch of different companies and you do that's to me, not interesting. I think it's a lot more interesting when you're actually building something that you really love and that you're really passionate about and that you really care about and that you can really stand behind. It's going to be by far the most fulfilling. And when you have that thing, then I think the next trap that you have to avoid is worrying about where, you have your vision for what you want, but you can't hold on to that so tightly that you forget that all you can do is the next best step. Like, what's the next best step? And just do that. Maybe the next best step is to read a book about the subject matter that you're interested, or talk to somebody, or make a single Instagram post, about what you care about and get feedback. And so you have to kind of just focus on what that next thing is and then look to where you might have any internal resistance. I think a lot of times when we want to create something, we're afraid of it failing. So we're afraid of even starting it. But that's not going to get you anywhere. You have to, if you're going to fail, well, let it happen quick, because you'll pivot. You'll find a way to do something different. Even when I was starting on it, I started by making hangover supplements, and it failed. And then eventually I pivoted, taking everything I'd learned about making supplements, and got with some different doctors and different individuals who were working with me in the company, and created a nootropic, which is a cognitive enhancer. And then my company on it succeeded. And it's been successful since then. But if it wasn't for me trying the hangover supplements and failing, I wouldn't have had the skills and experience and platform to actually pivot into creating Alpha Brain. So you just have to go, and you just have to do it, and you just have to try and be willing to fail. And when you fail, just acknowledge that you failed, and then just move on.
Thank you for sharing. That's amazing. And what role, this weekend, One Earth Live has so many great artists from around the world. What role does music play in the sort of peak performance, if you like, of humanity, or this great journey we're on?
I think music is underrated. Think about, if let's say you're in a depressed state, and I think we all, even if we're not clinically depressed, a lot of us go into these depressive moods, these kind of moods where we're not motivated to do anything. And if you play that song that makes you feel happy, that has the vibrational and energetic signature of someone who's happy and like that feels good, it's like a little lily pad across the river to the other state of consciousness. It can actually shift your consciousness and shift the way that your thought patterns will go. Let's say you don't want to work out. You know, you play that song that's like firing you up, like you're a lot closer to working out. And so in a game of life, which is really close to the tipping point, you know, like the difference between whether we work out or don't is probably 47 versus 53%. And maybe a song can be that 4% difference to move you to 51, 49 in favor of, and you'll do it. You know, so I think we sometimes underestimate how important something like music can be. And then, of course, music can take a more significant role when you talk about music that you use for meditation or journeying of any sort of ceremony. Then music takes a more primary role. You think of the ayahuasca shamans who sing the Icaros, or, you know, the Bwiti mouth harp, you know, music for the iboga ceremonies, or there's music that kind of goes along with these transformational experiences that's incredibly important as well. And then it's also just part of the music and the signature of life, whether you're making love. Like the music that you play when you're making love is going to dictate, you know, how you make love, or at least it should. You know, like you should have some synergy to that. I remember even last night, you know, we were talking about Whitney Houston, and my partner put on like Whitney Houston on Spotify, and it was just going through the songs, and she was singing to me, and it was really like romantic. Like the Bodyguard song came on, and then we decided to make love, and it was like we were making love in a romantic comedy drama or something, you know, and it was like a really cool moment. It was a different, you know, it was a different experience, and that offered a beautiful new expression of how we had our own intimate dance together. So, you know, music plays so many different roles, and I think, you know, people tend to underestimate, even though it's part of like the backdrop of our life, people underestimate the real value of having music that you love and music that you actually actively go out and seek and curate. And, you know, like I love making my playlists because it'll change the nature of a dinner party or an afternoon session or a workout or, you know, anything. It's just really important to have access and explore, you know, all the music that's available.
Yeah, it's so true. There's a great saying that, you know, every revolution has a soundtrack, like the 60s, you know, it was like fueled by this music as well, which just gave this potency to the whole sort of moment of the, you know, summer of love and all of that. No doubt. Aubrey, it's been a great pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for sharing your beautiful heart and your time with us today at One Earth Live. And just want to thank you. And we've come to the end. Would you like to share one more thing to this global community that's joining us this weekend?
Yeah, you know, I think the last thing I would share is that, you know, a lot of people are going to tell you that things have to be a certain way, that perhaps your brain is broken, your body is broken, something is broken, and you don't have the power to fix it, and you don't have the power to do anything. You need to go buy something or go to see some specialist or go that. But I think that's kind of robbing us of our innate power to choose. And I think the power of our own choice and our own will is stronger credit to. And so if you want to quit doing that thing, if you want to start doing that thing, like you have the power to do it. Like you're capable, and don't listen to anybody who tells you that that's not in your power to do so. So just really to harness our innate superpower, which is to choose and to use those choices wisely.
Thank you so much, Aubrey.
Yeah, for sure. It's a pleasure.
Great to have you here. Great to have you here. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. It was Aubrey Marcus, and we'll be seeing you at the next session. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
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 Namaste.
Welcome
to the Global Days of Unity.
From the minute that I heard about Global Days of Unity, I understood that it was the thing for this time. The incredible coming together of people, music, song, prayer, that it's like a massive infusion of energy into consciousness, into the world. And what I love about it is it's completely accessible by anyone, anywhere. And let's create that togetherness and that cohesion third weekend of every month.
Deep inhale to the center.
Today at this session, we have a wonderful panel, wonderful presenters.
It brings together a unity that I don't think has ever really truly been done correctly. And just learning about the initiative makes my heart warm.
Put our thoughts into it, we put intention into it, it can just be so powerful and can become so huge and have such a big impact.
I think what inspires me the most about the Global Days of Unity initiative is the experimental aspect of it, right? Like, this thing has never been done before. We've tried so many different things. We haven't tried people coming together with a sense of intention and joy. Let's try something new. Let's see what humanity can be. And I'm excited about that possibility.
If we send out love, then the world responds with love. So in Global Days of Unity, just imagine the consequence of a large number of people sending out wonderful thoughts of love, peace, and harmony, because we can change this planet just by the thinking of those wonderful thoughts. And in community, we re-empower each other, but we can also empower the world.
I want to invite you.
The third weekend of every month.
Let us be together.
To the Global Days of Unity.
Welcome home.